Allow everyone into the room first. But hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to give it a few more seconds for people to filter in. And then we'll begin. Okay. All right. More people will join as we go along, but we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to PNP Live. My name is Brittany Kerfoot, the Director of Events for Politics and Prose Bookstore in Washington, D.C., and I am so happy to see you all here for today's event. A couple of housekeeping items that I want to go over before we start. First, I'm going to drop a link in the chat where you can order a copy of today's book from Politics and Prose, and we ship anywhere in the US. And if you live in the DC area, you can select in-store pickup and come get your book from any of our 3 store locations. Also, as an added incentive to purchase the book, anyone who buys a copy from us will be entered to win an exclusive one-on-one Zoom with the authors, where they will talk to the lucky winner about how to go vegan and answer any specific questions about the process that you might have. Also, the first 50 people to buy the book via PNP will receive these beautifully designed seed packets, and they'll come with your book. And because spring feels like it's here, or at least it's very close to being here, you can start your very own vegan-friendly herb and vegetable garden in your backyard, or you can give some seeds to a friend. So that is for the first 50 people who buy the book. You'll get those seed packets. Finally, if you have a question for our speakers, please enter it into the Q&A space at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will get to those questions in the later portion of the event. Okay, it is now my pleasure to introduce today's speakers. First, Gene Stone is a former Peace Corps volunteer, journalist, book, magazine, and newspaper editor, and a New York Times bestselling author. He has written, co-written, or ghostwritten more than 45 books on a variety of subjects, but for the last decade, he has concentrated his efforts on plant-based diets and their relationship to health, animal protection, and the environment. And Kathy Freston is the New York Times bestselling author of multiple health and wellness books, and her advocacy for a healthy, sustainable, and just food system is inspired by her concern for human health as well as animal and environmental welfare. Their book, 72 Reasons to be Vegan, is a must-read for anyone concerned about the future of our planet, your own health, and the moral ramifications of meat eating. So Kathy and Jean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you.
Great to be here.
Absolutely.
So I want to start out just by asking each of you what kind of made you decide to be vegan? If you can remember the point that it kind of sparked you, what's the story? Jean, do you want to go first?
Sure. Obviously this question gets asked a lot, and I'm always embarrassed with the answer because most people will talk about their extraordinary connection to an animal or this amazing understanding they had one day about what we really do. And for me, it's actually work related. I got a phone call from my agent saying, do you want to meet this Texas firefighter and do a book with him? And I said, no, that doesn't really sound like anything I'm interested in. And he goes, no, this guy's vegan. He's really interesting. He got his whole firehouse to go vegan. So I called the guy up, and his name was Rip Esselstyn. And it turned out that he was a really interesting guy. We got along really, really well. And he had indeed gotten his firehouse to go vegan, partly because his father, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, had been working on the relationship between a plant-based diet and human health for many, many years. Since I think 1986, that whole family had been vegan. So there I am working with this guy, and I'm thinking, well, if I'm gonna write about this, I actually should do it. So Rip goes, yeah, let's do that. So it was really easy because from then on, Rip would call me it seemed like every hour going, what'd you eat? What'd you just eat? Did you eat? Come on, what are you eating? What are you eating? What are you doing? What are you doing? And he had me keep a food log. And by the way, most people do not have to do this. It's much easier than this. But this was 15 years ago when actually being vegan was a little bit harder. And it was one of those things where, it just took. I thought, where have I been all my life? Have I not been living in my head? Why haven't I seen this? Because he then introduced me to Brian Wendell, who's doing a documentary called Forks Over Knives. And Brian was great. And I said, hey, we should do a book together. I'll do the book and you do the documentary. And then through Brian, I met Gene Bauer from Farm Sanctuary, and I started seeing all these documentaries about, oh my God, what we do to animals. And so it just snowballed. And I mean, seriously, now I can't imagine not being vegan, but it really all went back to that one phone call randomly from an agent in New York, just happening to say, hey, you should meet this guy. So that's how it happened.
That's crazy that he got a whole firehouse to do it. It's hard to get a whole group of people to do anything.
Rip is one of those guys who, wherever he is, everybody around him has to do what he's doing. He's very enthusiastic and very intense.
That's awesome. Kathy, what about you?
Can I just first say, A, thank you for having us here. This is amazing, such an honor. And B, this is an introvert's dream to be on a book tour in her own kitchen, wearing my slippers and, just being at home. This is heavenly to be able to connect with you guys and do this whole thing and from the comfort of home. So I hope you keep doing stuff like this. It's amazing. So
yes, for sure.
Yeah.
And we have people, it's so great because we can have people everywhere from DC to California. Sometimes we have Norway, Scotland, everybody tunes in. It's amazing.
So great. Yeah, I'm one of these totally helicopter mothers with my dog. So every time I have to go out of town and figure out what am I going to do and miss her. So now it's like, oh my God, it's perfect. Anyway, okay. Thought I'd interject that. So for me, I was a writer. I wrote about relationships and how to become more awake and aware in relationships and how to apply that to your work world, your spiritual life, and just how to be your best self by being more conscious and conscientious. And I realized that the one area that I sort of never looked under the hood was food. And I thought, well, God, Kath, you're kind of being a hypocrite if you're trying to help people wake up and be more conscientious in their lives. And you've never even looked closely at how food becomes food. I mean, where do the products, you're eating on your plate, where do they come from? How did they get there? So I tasked myself with starting to investigate. And I really started feeling uncomfortable, finding out what animals went through. And don't worry, I'm never going to share anything gruesome because I don't ever want to traumatize anyone. But I just started getting kind of uncomfortable with it. And this feeling was sort of with me when one day I was playing with my little Chihuahua. At the time, she's not with me anymore, sadly, but she was lying on her back and I was rubbing her belly and, her legs were kicking out and I swear she was smiling. And I was just thinking to myself, oh, I love animals so much. And then this little voice inside of me says, well, then why are you eating them? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, the voice of consciousness, I suppose, or conscience. And I thought, well, this is a real inconvenience here. What am I going to do about that? And so I started picturing Lotzi, that was my Chihuahua's name. I started picturing her as if she were a pig or a cow or a chicken in the slaughter line and what she would be feeling. Because I mean, she gets nervous if someone comes to the door, you know what I mean? She starts shaking and everything. So I started picturing her. And then I thought, well, I would do anything in the world to prevent this dog from suffering and going through something horrible like that. So what's wrong with me that I'm completely okay with another animal going through all of this stuff? It doesn't really make any sense. There was just this disconnect between what animal I love and invite into my lap on a daily basis and an animal that I would have go through this horrendous process and end up on my plate. And, I'm sure we all sort of know that animals are all pretty sentient. They're pretty awake and aware, and they have feelings. They get anxious, they get happy, they get excited, they get fearful, all this wide gamut of feelings. So I thought, okay, now I have to do something, but I grew up in Doraville, Georgia, where I ate everything. I mean, I had something animal to eat every meal. My protein smoothie back then was milk, orange juice, a raw egg, and some fruit. That was my protein smoothie. So just to give you an idea, we ate everything, never thought twice about it. So I thought to myself, how am I going to become someone who doesn't eat anything from an animal? I mean, I can't even imagine. I thought I'm going to die an early death because we all know we need animal protein in order to survive and live a long time and be strong. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to see what happens. And I just set my intention and I leaned into it very gradually. No one around me was vegan. No one around me was vegan. And so I was kind of on my own. And this is about 17 years ago. I've been vegan for 16 years. And I just decided to lean into it, do it little by little. And over the course of about a year and a half, I became completely vegan. And it was a gradual thing for me, but it was my dog who was my aha moment. Just being with her made the connection for me.
Another part of it for me is that the more I got in, I started off being a health vegan, which is one of the pillars of veganism. And then I looked into animal protection through all those people I met. But then I also became, because I've always been very interested in the environment. And then all of this information about how bad animal agriculture is for the environment came out. So that became another reason why I kept doing it. There are those three pillars. There's the environment, animal protection, and health. But there's the fourth pillar is athletic performance. On the other hand, I'm not an Olympic athlete, so I don't really need that one. But who knows, maybe one day.
There's still time.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like you go in one door and you end up exploring other areas. So I went in through my love of animals and thinking I was going to die an early death without animal protein. And then once I started doing my research, I realized that not only was I not going to die an early death, I would probably add a decade onto my life. I was actually going to prevent certain diseases. I could possibly reverse things that were already going on. I could, bring down the inflammation I was dealing with. So all kinds of stuff. Even though I went through one door, the other stuff sort of becomes apparent. And that's what happens with a lot of people who go into it for health reasons. They're dealing with something that they want to sort of tackle by going with a plant-based diet. And then they sort of get the awareness about animals or the environment, and they just sort of all work together in a really beautiful way.
And on top of that, I would like to add that that's really one of the reasons why we wanted to write this book, is that both of us have worked in parts of veganism. Kathy's written about certain things. I've written a lot about health and animal protection. But for both of us, we wanted a book that would encompass everything we just talked about. And there really wasn't one out there, so that if someone were to say, why should I be vegan? I could give them a health book or an environmental book or athletic, but then they'd have a library. And I thought, that's probably a little too much.
Good for a bookstore.
Right.
Exactly.
Maybe it's not going to discourage that.
Your bookstore. But
instead, we have one short little book for you.
So now what we have is this, this little book that we thought could work as that compendium. Instead of giving somebody all of the books, all of these reasons that we've just been talking about, we cover in brief in this one book.
And that's the thing. We didn't want it to be this long treatise on anything, because everyone, including myself these days, we're reading so much. There's just so much to read, different news outlets and posts and blogs and newsletters and everything. So we wanted to compile everything in a short, easy to read, bottom line everything with good resources and sources so that you could just go to what you're interested in. And for me, I was, I'm super into vanity. I wanted nice skin. I wanted to, take care of my little belly, the muffin tops, things like that. And I know Gene was very interested in, improving his strength. And then there's, all the bigger health questions. And so it's kind of nice to know that you can be selfish about your interest in going vegan. Like there are very good vanity reasons to go vegan, but also there's, the greater good, solving world hunger, for instance. And so you kind of you can kind of flip through the book and see what you're interested in, and then just read that section, which may lead you to other various sections. So.
And what Kathy said was really part of why it was so easy for us to write this book together. As you know, sometimes people don't always work together. I remember when I was a book editor, a very well-known couple had written a book about their beautiful marriage, and then by the time the book was written, they divorced.
Oh,
so
no.
we didn't want that to happen. But it turned out, you know, Kathy wrote 36 of them. I wrote 36 of them. There was never any issue. It was just really fun. Like, do you want to write about this? And there's certain things I really didn't want to write about skin because, you know, my skin's over. Who cares
Like,
about my
take the skin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to write about the environment because I feel really strongly about that. So
Yeah.
it was really fun doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I did want to write about penises. I did enjoy writing about that. So.
Okay, now you need to elaborate on how.
Okay. So one of the reasons to go vegan is that it's called "Dude, Your Erections" #better longer. So it's just fascinating to me that what is clogging up the arteries to your heart is also the same thing that blocks circulation to other places, like the penis. And so if you don't have clear arteries and you have high blood pressure and you have, you know, sort of that blocked up lack of circulation, you don't have as good of an erection. And in fact, impotence is one of the telltale signs that you might have a serious heart problem. So when you go vegan and you're eating foods that are grown in the ground and on trees, all this great fiber, you have great circulation. And so men have better erections. So I thought that was pretty great. And the same goes for women, by the way. That same circulation applies to women, to our tender bits that we have. It stays nice and circulated and juicy. And so sex is kind of better all around for vegans.
Right, because we do have, after the Dude, Your Erections chapter, we have Gals, Your Clitoris #orgasms chapter.
There we go. We had so much fun naming the chapters. You know, I'd get out a nice glass of wine and we'd riff on the chapters and, you know, during happy hour. And we were kind of like, we were having a great time with this.
Yeah, I know you're not supposed to really have fun writing a book. It's supposed to be like really hard work. And it was hard work to some degree, but we really did have fun.
We have a great time. Jean and I always wish we could be married. Jean is gay. So it's like, you know, I guess we can't be married. Although we could be married. We could. Yeah. We have like the perfect relationship. It's really.
Are you asking me to propose now?
I mean.
Sure. Marry me. Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll do a Zoom wedding.
Yeah, exactly. But no, we really had a great time writing it. We really had a good time writing it. And it's so exciting to see it out because it's one of those things that it's a great thing for the vegan curious. There's a lot of people who say, I know that people are talking about plant-based, but I don't really get it because other people are telling me that keto is really good. So what's what, you know, and I'm really concerned about getting enough iron and calcium and things like that. So for those people, the vegan curious, it's a really good book, but it's also a great book for people who are advocates of this lifestyle and just are tired of explaining it, or you can't remember all the details for climate change. It's like you're not a walking database of numbers. You just say, here, just read the book. It's all in here. So it's kind of convenient.
And that's another reason why it's not, I would say, a very thick book. And you actually can pick it up anywhere you want. We didn't do it in a specific order. We didn't go like environment and then health and then athletic performance. It's kind of just as it goes. So, you know, if you're in the bathroom and you want to read just one, it's fine, or you read 10.
It's the ADD brain. We bounce around.
Right.
Yeah. We keep ourselves entertained and hopefully the reader.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So you guys have mentioned, you've each mentioned nutrients a couple of times, and I've been a vegetarian for 25 years. And the number one question I get when people find out that I'm a veg is, where do you get your protein? Yeah. And I think that there is huge misconception about vegetarianism and veganism and the nutrients that you can get. And actually, John in our audience already submitted a question and says, is it true that all proteins originate in plants? So can you tell people a little bit about like dispelling that myth of you can only get protein from animal byproducts or meat? Because I think that's such a huge widespread reason that people don't adopt that lifestyles. Because like Kathy, like you said, like, what am I going to do if I don't have any protein?
Yeah, well, I want to say that it's not our fault as consumers that we worry about getting enough protein, because the meat and dairy industries are out there working very hard to convince us that we need protein, and the best way to get it is from animal foods. So that's what we believe. It's coming at us from all directions. That's a huge business. You know, the animal food business is a huge business. So I never get tired of that question, because I get it all the time. Where do you get your protein? It is a legitimate question, and I understand it. And so the best place to get protein, we think, it's clean protein. And clean protein is clear of cholesterol. So plant foods have zero cholesterol, zero zilch. And animal foods are jam-packed with cholesterol. And you know, dietary cholesterol is a real problem for a bunch of different reasons. So plant foods, much cleaner protein, very little saturated fat. Animal foods have lots of saturated fat, trans fat, big problem. Another way that it's clean protein is that plant proteins do not have E. coli, salmonella, campylobacter. All those things are originating in animals. The word E. coli comes from colon. It comes from an animal's colon. It's most common in beef, where salmonella is most common in eggs. So plant proteins are so much cleaner, and they're cleaner on the environment, because animal agriculture is just a disaster on our land and our water and our air. It's just it pollutes everything. But the quality of the protein, so I think most people, when they eat eggs, it's not because eggs taste kind of sort of delicious, because eggs are kind of skanky. I don't know about you, but unless they're like flavored with a bunch of stuff, they're not delicious. Most people eat eggs because they're good protein. But one egg has 6 grams of protein, 3 in the yolk, 3 in the white. And that's not a lot of protein. 1 cup of lentils, which is really small, is 17 grams of protein, plus it's packed with fiber. So if you eat a hearty lentil soup, you're probably getting 3 cups of lentils in there. That's a lot of protein, a lot more than you're going to get from animal stuff. And you're getting it free and clear of saturated fat and cholesterol and all the other stuff that goes around with animal foods.
Another thing to consider is that the World Health Organization feels that something like 6 to 8% of our diet should be rich in protein, and Americans get way, way too much, overburdening our systems. And in fact, the word for not getting enough protein, nobody even knows, because it just never happens. And it isn't even in the English language. The word, because I always do this, I ask if anybody have any idea what that word is. It's actually kwashiorkor, which is from the West Indies, where they did have a protein problem many years ago. But in this country, we do not have a protein problem of deficiency. We have a protein problem of abundance.
Yeah, that's the problem. We have too much protein and too much stuff that goes along with it. We have an overabundance of food, rich food, which did us well back in the day when we were hunters and gatherers, because we needed concentrated sources of calories. So we're wired to seek that out. That's why a juicy steak, you know, it's like appealing to us, because back in the day, that is concentrated fat and calories, and we needed that. But we don't need that now. Now it's a big problem, because vegetables.
Oops.
I think she froze on us.
Well, Kathy kind of froze there.
Yeah, I think so.
That's one of the things that happens to vegans sometimes. We just freeze.
The pleasures of Zoom.
Shall I just go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, so the point is, yes, protein is overabundant in our diet.
There we are. There we go.
Oh, Kathy, there you froze, Kathy.
I froze. You guys froze too. I was like, what's happening? Okay, we're back. We're back. Sorry.
No, but that's so interesting that there's not even a word that is known to most people, because everyone knows what, anemic means and things like that, but that protein deficiency just isn't a problem that we need to worry about.
But I noticed that there's a question here about whether mushrooms have protein, and the questioner actually says, I doubt it, but actually mushrooms are fairly high in protein. Mushrooms are one of those wonderful things that when I was growing up, they were considered to be like empty food. Nobody really cared. And if you did even have a mushroom, it was one of those horrible little button things that was stuck on top of your pizza. But actually, mushrooms are amazingly nutritious, and they do have a very nice amount of protein in them.
Basically, all foods have protein. I mean, a banana has protein, but we don't need to worry about getting protein as long as you're eating sufficient calories, which you're going to do because you naturally, if you're active in the world, you're going to be hungry, you're going to eat sufficient calories, and then you're going to get enough protein. It's not a worry. We don't have to worry about, oh my God, where am I getting my protein? If you're an athlete, you're working out really hard, have a lot of beans and lentils. And there's, seeds are super high in protein, nuts, peanut butter, all of those things if you want to think specifically about protein. But you really don't need to worry about it. If you're eating a good, diverse diet of whole grains and beans and vegetables and fruits and seeds and nuts, you're getting enough.
I just noticed that Anne in the audience has said that she actually did know the word kwashiorkor, so she becomes the only person I've ever know it.
I know, Anne gets a gold star.
Yeah, that's totally impressive. Oh, there's the notes. I see. Oh, great. I love it. Yeah, and that's the thing, we have lots of friends who are doctors, and they admittedly in our field, they say, hey, listen, we got a lot of great training in medicine, but we did not learn a lot about nutrition. We got maybe half a day of nutrition. And this is not I am in awe of doctors. I think they're awesome. My mother just went in for, quadruple bypass, and I am just like stunned at what doctors can do and surgeons can do. So this is no disrespect to them, but they don't have nutritional training. And I think a lot of people go to their doctors who say I'm feeling this, that, and the other, and the doctors may not know what to say. So they're not the best resources really for saying what you need. So you really want to go to someone who specializes in being a dietitian, for instance, where they have a lot of training in this field, or a doctor who's made it her or his business to have nutritional training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, whenever someone, my husband is vegetarian too, and whenever someone asks him that, he just says, well, that cows are huge and they eat grass, right? Like cows don't eat meat, or dinosaurs, herbivores didn't eat meat and they were huge. So they didn't have a protein deficiency.
All of the largest mammals, the gorillas, the hippopotamuses, the rhinoceroses, the elephants, all of these enormous animals, they have pretty much they're vegan,
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
We're getting some amazing questions from the audience, so I want to sprinkle a few of those in here. Carol says, can Jean and Kathy share the benefits that they've experienced personally in your lifestyle/health from being vegan? So I don't know if you guys, once you became vegan, if you noticed anything in particular that really changed.
Well, for me, I'll say from a place of vanity, my skin cleared up. I did have sort of acne, and I'm guessing that might have come from dairy. It's an educated guess because dairy has a lot of hormones in it, whether, added hormones are just naturally occurring. And that when you have that kind of hormonal imbalance in your body, when you're drinking all that estrogenic milk, it can really affect your skin. So when I moved away from dairy, my skin cleared up. I got a lot better circulation, back to the circulation, and my skin has a much better complexion than I used to have. I also got to a weight that I felt really good about, so it's one of those things that doesn't make you lose weight, it doesn't make you gain weight, it just helps you get to where your body is healthiest. And so for me, that was trimming down a little bit, and that was a really nice health effect. I also slept a lot better when I went vegan, and I just got happier. And that's the best thing for me, is that my mood improved so much, and I feel more connected in my life to people, to the world around me. And not to sound woo-woo or anything like that, but I think what happens is when you are living in a way that you are sort of practicing your values, mine, which are pretty basic, which is kindness, mercy, responsible stewardship. When you're living in a way that you're practicing your values, it just feels good. You just feel very in your skin, like I'm doing in the world what I am supposed to be doing. And I feel more I think what happened to me also is because the numbness that I had when blocking out what happens to the animals, when that numbness isn't there anymore, because I'm awake and aware, I feel a greater depth. I feel more connected to people. I have better relationships and with friendships and everything. So I just feel happier.
For me, I think the first thing I noticed was that my family has enormously high cholesterol levels. It's just genetic, and mine was around 250 or 260. And then after Rip had gotten me on the vegan diet, within a month it was down to 210, which is still a little higher than it's probably supposed to be. But in my family, that was like nothing that anyone had ever seen before. But I think more importantly for me was just being able to look at any animal in the eyes and say, I'm on your side. You know, I don't feel any guilt anymore. I can go up to a cow or anybody and just go, yeah, you know, I get it. I like you. You can lick me. I know that sounds a little weird, but it's just really nice to think that you're not going through this earth killing things. I mean, yeah, all right, I probably step on some bugs and I probably do some things I don't want to do, but in general, it just feels nice. It just really does.
It really does. And I want to say, athletically also, I feel really a lot better because I started running. You know, I was never athletic when I was younger. My girlfriend, her name was Susie. She used to call me Slug or Sluggy. That was my nickname, because I was like, yeah, let's hang out. Let's not, you know, I never really wanted to do anything. So to have this kind of energy now feels really good. I started running a few years ago, and I'm running now 6 miles a day. Wow. And without injury, knock on wood. So it's one of those things, and there's a lot of endurance athletes that are vegan just because they are endurance athletes, because you repair faster, you don't have this sort of sluggish protein going through your system. So yeah, you it's kind of like a, not to be woo-woo, but body, mind, soul. You know, it kind of works on all levels to make you feel better.
And notice how we both keep saying not to be woo-woo, because we
just
are
lean into the woo-woo.
Yeah, we lean into woo.
You live in California now, Gene, so you know that's the way it is.
But I mean, there was maybe 20 or 25 years ago, there might have been something, an accusation leveled at vegans, like, oh, what are you really doing? But it's so mainstream now that the vegans I know are lawyers and doctors and athletes and housewives.
Yeah.
It's everything. So it's not like you have to be afraid of people like thinking you're some sort of freak. Because you're not. You're actually doing something that's really, really good.
Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great.
There are a couple questions in here, and I admit, you know, I've been a vegetarian for so long, and I definitely eat vegan foods. We subscribe to a vegan meal service, but it has been hard giving up meat. Like I think Kathy, you said, I don't even notice it anymore. Like it's just part of who I am. I don't crave it. I don't miss it. But going full vegan can be even more challenging. And so a couple people, kind of a two-part question is, one, what are the challenges that you guys faced? Like, what were the hardest parts of going vegan? For me, I know sometimes it can be really hard to find something in a restaurant or when you're traveling or on a road trip. You know, fast food is what it is and it's available. And someone wants you guys to give me tips on how I can move from vegetarian to full vegan.
I love it. I love it. Jean, do you want to go or do you want me to go?
Go ahead.
I would say that say something to your favorite restaurants, because for my favorite restaurant is in Santa Barbara and it's a steakhouse. And I talked to the manager and I said, you know, because I love going in with friends and we have a good martini on Friday night, you know, and they would have this big meal and I was having a baked potato and a side of broccoli. And I was like, I love your place and I will spend money here, but there's nothing substantial for me to eat, you know, and there's something called the veto vote, which restaurants would do well to know because it behooves them to sort of expand their menu. The veto vote is that if like there's a party of 6 of us and I'm the only vegan and you know my other friends they eat whatever, that we're all going to go to a place that has something for everybody. So we're going to go to some place. If that restaurant didn't have like a really substantial delicious dish that I could have, we're going to go somewhere else. So restaurants do really well when they expand the menu. And that's so one thing I would say is let your local restaurants know that it's really important that you want to keep going there, but you'd love something that's not just a baked potato on a side of vegetables. We want like, you know, a burger, a Beyond Burger. We want, you know, chickpea cakes with sauce. We want grilled tofu, you know, give them some ideas and some resources. And then the other thing is we're big believers in crowding out, not cutting out. So instead of saying, okay, we're not going to have any dairy anymore. That sounds awful to white knuckle it. That sounds really difficult. So instead, we're going to go about it with a spirit of adventure, the spirit of curiosity. And we're going to go out to the grocery stores or our local farmers market and see what kind of plant-based cheeses we can find, what kind of plant-based milks or yogurts, or all the things that dairy would normally be in your freezer or refrigerator. How can we find some really good plant-based alternatives and start experimenting with those until you find your favorite? Then it's really fun because then you're saying, oh my God, did you try that Nyoko's cheese? That's incredible. Or did you try that Kite Hill yogurt? It's out of this world. Or that So Delicious cashew ice cream is amazing. I mean, when you try this stuff and you find the things that you like, it's suddenly so much fun and such a great adventure instead of like, oh, I have to give up my favorite thing in life, you know? And one more last thing I just want to point out about dairy is cashew cream is like the miracle of life. Cashew cream is so simple to make, and you just literally put it in a blender, some water, some raw cashews, unsalted, and you blend it according to how thick you want it. And it's like cream. So you can sweeten it for a dessert, make it a sauce. You can put more savory flavors in, garlic to make it an Alfredo sauce. So there's ways to cook with raw material at home and make sort of creamy things that taste so delicious, or you can find all the plant-based alternatives in your grocery store.
So Brittany, the second part of that question is about you. So normally I have time, like a few hours here, but
I know, right?
Quickly, what is it that would stop you from being vegan, and how would we address that? What is the major stumbling block for you, which may be very similar to other people?
Yeah, I'm a very picky eater. I always have been. I grew up in the South where it was a lot of like potatoes, pork chops, you know, green beans, like not a whole lot of variety. So I didn't grow up liking a lot of foods. And so I think part of me is like, well, if I get rid of the foods I do like, I might not be left with anything. And then the second part of that is, which I'm sure a lot of you guys out there can attest to, is that cooking just takes a long time, right? And especially in the pandemic, it's like free time is what is that? And so, the meal service has helped. And I would suggest to you guys, if you don't have time to cook or go grocery shopping, meal services are great. There are vegan ones out there that are amazing. But it just feels very daunting. Like after a long day at work, okay, now I'm going to go cook this full meal with, new ingredients I might not be familiar with and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, most of the ingredients that go into the vegan, and people get this thing about, it's very upper class and expensive, but, veganism is really basically could be down, corn, beans, and grains. I'm a crappy cook. And if I can do it, I figure just about anybody can. I mean, I'm very easy, I can just spend a night with steaming 2 artichokes and feel very full afterwards. And of course, given what's going on in the pandemic, and I happen to live in Los Angeles now, it is so easy. I mean, there's so many fast food places here that are vegan that you can do your vegan meal really quickly, really easily, and really cheaply. So that shouldn't be a stumbling block. For most people, it's usually a specific thing like cheese or fish. Yeah. But again, with cheese, as Kathy said, there's so many great vegan cheeses out there. And what's interesting with fish is that it's not quite it's just starting on the market. There's a company called Good Catch. There are 2 others that are out there right now. And what they're creating from usually some kind of plant protein, perhaps pea or something else, foods that actually really do taste like seafood. And there's one of them that is a tuna that you can make an amazing tuna salad out of that isn't tuna.
Yeah, I remember the first time I had a really good Impossible Burger. I was like, you have to take this back. I just ate meat. This isn't right. Because it tasted so much like what I remember. It's come a long way. Vegan and vegetarian food has come a long way in the last 5 years.
It really has. That's what makes it so great. It's like, oh my God, I'm on the road and I can stop in a Burger King, now McDonald's is going to roll out a plant-based burger, and Kentucky Fried Chicken has got vegan chicken. So it's not that we're advocating for fast food like that, but it's definitely a lot easier. And I was going to say one of my go-tos, I have 2 go-tos that are super easy. One is a big soup. I just throw in 3 different kinds of beans. If I have time, I make them from scratch. If I don't, I empty some cans, some stewed tomatoes. I put in some onions and carrots and, maybe some frozen kale, just dump that in there, some vegetables, a huge pot. You're making enough for the week, and I once it's all nice and cooked down and flavorful, I'll put it in little glass Tupperware things and put it in the freezer and then just bring it out as needed. So that's a really easy way to eat very protein packed, delicious, really simple food that's very cheap. And another thing is, make a smoothie. When I don't have time, I just put a smoothie with some protein powder or not. You don't need protein powder, and put in some frozen vegetables and some frozen fruits, maybe a little, seeds, flax seeds or something. And it's a delicious way to get a lot of fruits and vegetables. So believe me, I am very lazy in the kitchen, and I'm also very cheap. I don't like to spend a lot of money. So I have all kinds of hacks that I use and that have made it easier. But it's just it's a matter of just finding out what's right for you, because everybody's different and we so respect people's journey. We don't believe there's one way of doing this. And we're big believers in leaning in and doing the best you can and finding the way that works for you and the speed that works for you.
Brittany, I think you're going to be our pet project now. I think we have to make you vegan.
Bring it on, I'm ready. So there are a few questions in here, which I think is funny. And it kind of goes to the idea of, can you be vegan-ish? So some people are saying, I'm mostly vegan, but I love a bite of cheesecake, or I'm pretty much vegan, but I have a bite of this or a bite of that. And so they're saying, is it more important to be strictly vegan, or is vegan-ish kind of an actual thing?
I mean, Jean, do you want to answer? Or?
Well, we'll both answer, because I think we both have some history with this. When I wrote with Rip his book, we actually divided things into plant perfect, which meant that you were all totally vegan, or plant strong, which meant that you were mostly. And I think both Kathy and I feel very strongly, like she said before, that you're on your own journey. Eat as much fruits and vegetables and legumes and whole grains as you can. And if that takes you to 100% and you're totally vegan, that's terrific. But if it takes you to 70% from 30%, that's terrific too. So again, we're not absolutists on this, and we're not saying if you're not vegan, there's something wrong with you. What we're trying to do is tell people, try to make some conscious choices with their food, understand what it is, where it comes from, what it does for you, and see where that goes. And yeah, it'd be great if you go all the way, but if you don't and you just eat more, that's also that's terrific too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems like, let's say everyone in the world did meatless Mondays, right? Or if everyone in the world ate a little bit more plant-based, especially someone like me who climate change is such an important issue. I mean, just imagine the reduction of if everyone just went like a step further. Just the environmental impact, the impact on animals. It would be huge if everyone just did like one small thing.
Yeah. And that's just one small thing leads to another thing. And then you feel empowered, you start feeling better, you find things that are delicious, and it just sort of naturally leans forward. And to give yourself a break. I mean, I probably about a year into my being vegan, I craved a tuna sandwich. I just missed having my lunch of a tuna sandwich and potato chips. And I remember I went into a store, and I got this before I became an activist, of course, but I had a tuna fish sandwich, and it was like, meh. I had sort of, it lived in my mind like it was this amazing thing, but I'm glad that I allowed myself to have it, because once I went back to it, it was like, oh, it's really fishy. It was gamey,
And taste buds kind of change after a while.
They do.
I really missed eggs. I thought breakfast eggs, that's what breakfast was eggs. And then maybe about 5 years into it, I was up at someone's farm, and there were these happy chickens running around and just spurting out eggs everywhere. And so they were so clean and easy. So it was an omelet. And it was like, it was too rich and too much. And great, because by having that omelet, it made me realize I didn't want to do it again. But, and I have to say, I'm 99.9% vegan. Every now and then I know, things slip in. I love chocolate.
Truffles, I know you.
I have chocolate truffles every now and then, which I'm guilty about. And I think they're vegan, but maybe they're not. And by the way, we just got a question about the difference between vegan and plant-based.
Yeah.
And that's one of those that's a tough one. For some people, vegan also means that you're also not buying any animal products in your clothing. In other words, your whole life, not just your diet, but every purchase you make is animal-free. Plant-based usually just refers to the actual diet and not the rest of your life. I think Kathy and I make an effort both to never buy anything that comes from an animal.
But again, that was a process. I mean, I remember once I was vegan and I was at a dinner and I was talking to a few people, and this gal sitting next to me looked down at my shoes and she said, "What's that on your feet?" And I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "What are you wearing on your feet?" And I said, "Shoes." She said, "What are they made of?" And I said, "Leather." And she said, "Then don't talk to me about what you eat." And first of all, I felt really guilty, like ashamed. Did I do something wrong? Am I not being a good vegan? And then I was like, listen, we just take all have our own process. And I wasn't there yet. And I took a lot longer to give up my, Manola Blahniks than I did to give up steak. It was just a big difference for me. I was more into, a nice handbag. And so it just took me longer. And I would say that is not something that, one should think about. We are all different. We're all committed to various things, whether it's the environment or the animals or human health or whatever. And again, one door opens the other door, but just moving forward in whatever area that you feel comfortable with is going to lead to the next step. And that's okay. It takes as long as it takes, or you go to a certain point and then you're like, okay, this is as far as I can go. but we're all different. And I did a post on my Instagram, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, and the post was called "I'm an Imperfect Vegan," and I talked about the ways that I'm an imperfect vegan, things that I goofed up on or whatever. And the vast majority of comments were like, yeah, same with me, I get it. But I had a few people who were so militantly angry with me, just like calling me a murderer and, how I was doing the wrong thing. And I just think, what a pity, because people are going to think that that's what, vegans are like. And the vast, vast majority of people who are into veganism are into it for kindness and compassion and common sense. It's not this militant thing. So I would just put it out there that if anyone ever tries to bully you or shame you or something like that, when you're doing your best and yourself and you're really taking positive steps forward, then just, hold to your own and keep going and just ignore that negative feedback.
Yeah, for me, the compromise was I didn't throw out any leather or other stuff I had. I just didn't buy anything new. I happen to love watches. Watches are my only material love. And most watches actually look better with a leather band. So my decision was to keep all of the watches I had that had leather bands. But since then, the watches I bought they have metal now. But I'm not getting rid of the other ones. I just love them too much. I wouldn't buy a new one, but
Well, and if we're talking about veganism for environmental impact, throwing things out just to throw them out is just going to create more waste, right? And so, yeah, I think deciding not to buy them. Sue-Ann says it didn't happen for me overnight. I still own leather products that are perfectly good. I won't throw them in the trash because that just creates more waste, and that kind of is counterproductive to what the movement is trying to do.
Exactly. And by the way, the book is really about food. It's not the whole vegan lifestyle. I think that was the very end, was like, you can go as far as you want and take it to the next level. But the whole book is really about food, what we eat.
So someone asked, and I think this question is fun. Chris says, what was the 73rd reason that didn't make it into the book?
Great. Oh my God.
I can answer that because there was a reason I really, really wanted in the book. And I don't think Kathy cared, and the editor didn't really like it. But I have a very good friend who is actually one of the premier watch repairers in the world, an amazing guy. He's into science fiction. And of all the people in my life who went vegan, he'd be the last person I would have suspected, but he's so into science fiction. He decided that if an alien came to our planet and looked at us and saw us eating animals, either they would be so disgusted they'd leave and we'd never have contact with them, or it would give them permission to eat us. But
I guess I'm not into sci-fi. I don't know.
Nobody else liked that one, but I still do.
72 reasons. It's a good number.
Yes.
Yeah, 73
Okay,
is a little off.
Yeah.
So then of the
edition for you, Jean.
Of the 72 that made it into the book, do each of you have a favorite reason?
Yeah, I would say my reason is number 27, a longer life. I want to live long and I want to live healthy and, be creative and have great relationships and grow and learn. And I don't want to be bogged down by disease and chronic illness and all that stuff. So for me, my favorite reason is adding longevity, and not only just longevity, but healthy years so that I am feeling good the whole way.
Yeah, I certainly couldn't disagree with that. But it's like, for me, it's like asking, which of your children do you love the most? Which actually some people might feel very strongly about. But I really do like all of the reasons. I feel very much like it's so important for the environment. It's so important for health. It's so important for these other things, so that, one day I might be more environmental, one day it might be more about health. But I do feel very strongly that all of these reasons are valuable. And I just hope that people pick up the book and decide that, yeah, this is something, this is a path they want to follow.
And Jean and I actually started a hashtag reasons to be vegan. So if you guys are interested in adding your reasons to be vegan, please hashtag reasons to be vegan, or reason to be vegan. I think it's reason to be vegan. And so it could be a picture of a cow that you just visited, or a delicious meal that you're having, or a martini, because martinis are vegan. Whatever it is, we'd love for you to add to the conversation.
I love that. Okay, my last question of the night will be, other than adopting a vegan lifestyle and a vegan diet, what is some activism that people can do? So let's say they're already vegans and they want to go further, or they are on their journey, but they're not quite ready to give up, ice cream sundaes. What is a kind of an attainable, actionable step that people can take outside of just the diet?
For them to be more vegan, or for them to get other people to be vegan?
Either one.
What I always say is that, for me, I'm never going to be that guy who's out on the lecture circuit doing 330 days of talking and all of that. The only thing I know how to do at all is write. And so that's what I do. So I would just say to anybody, if you have any kind of skill, whether you're an artist or a writer or whatever it is you want to do, and you want to take it a little larger, then do that. Take whatever it is you know how, even if you know how to sew, if you know how to crochet, whatever it is that you're skilled at, you find a way that can help influence other people, then just go there, do it. Kathy, are you frozen?
I love that. I love
that. Is Kathy frozen?
Oh, she was, and then she wasn't, and now she is again. I have a feeling she'll be back.
Okay. Okay. Hello. I totally agree with that. The only thing I would add to it is to be a kind and gently informative ambassador of this way of living and eating, because that's what it's all about.
I love that. I know for me personally, I give a monthly automatic donation to rescue farms who save animals from auction and slaughter. And they take them to their farms and they live out the rest of their lives happy and healthy. And so those places need donations as well, because a lot of them are vegan, run by vegans, but it takes a lot of money and a lot of work to transport cows and goats that are up for auction. So that's my little way.
Love it.
Good.
Love it.
Yeah, I have a number of adopted animals at various farm sanctuaries all over the country.
Nice. I love that. Well, I could talk about this for another hour, but unfortunately time is up. But if you are looking for your way to help, pick up a copy of this book from Politics and Prose. I've put the link in the chat several times. It's like Jean and Kathy said, it's very small. You can throw it in your bag, take it on the metro, take it on a plane, read it in piecemeal. It's super accessible. And you guys said you had so much fun writing it, but you can tell because it's actually very fun to read it. And so I think that's really important, especially for a topic like this. So thank you guys so much. And if you would like to be my gurus for becoming vegan, I will.
You're there.
Take off on that.
Thank you. This is great.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really loved it.
And again, everyone who purchases the book, the first 50 will get a special seed packet, and I will email the winner of the one-on-one Zoom with Kathy and Jean if I don't steal it for myself. I will email you tonight. I'm going to let a few more people purchase the book if they want to, so that you can enter to win the one-on-one. But you'll get an email if you've won. So thank you guys so much. Everyone, stay safe, stay well, and stay well.